People don't really want to hear this, but if you want to progress in your career and get ahead of 99% of people, you need to do the boring work consistently. That's what's going to help you get ahead, get promoted, and essentially earn more. In this video, I'm sharing the boring career moves that if you do consistently, it won't be overnight, but if you spend time doing them, you will see progress and you'll notice that you'll end up being in a completely different position to what you started from. Hey, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Becca. I'm a full-time software engineer, part-time Pilates instructor, someone with multiple interests and multiple different passions. I love sharing bits of my life, insights into my career, tips on productivity, and everything in between. So if you enjoy this content, don't forget to subscribe. But let's get straight into the video. So something I've realized is you're never actually going to feel ready for the next big step, whether that's a promotion or a career jump or a new job or taking on a big project, leading a big project, leading a team. Whatever it is, you're never going to feel ready. Your brain will always find a way to trick you into thinking that you're not ready to do it yet, or you're not good enough yet, and you'll be ready in the future or when you've had a bit more practice or a bit more time. But the reality is that time never comes. You're only ever going to feel ready by doing the thing. I used to wait until I felt completely confident in something before doing it. So I wouldn't apply for a new job until I fit all of the criteria, until I could tick everything off. I wouldn't put myself forward to lead on anything until I felt completely confident. I wouldn't sign up to things. And this really just hindered my progress across so many different things. It was only when I started applying for those jobs, putting myself out there and saying yes to opportunities, when I started leading on projects and delivering talks and different workshops, that I started to build that confidence in my abilities. And then through that, I would do a better job, I'd learn from it, I'd apply those learnings, I'd get better each time, and then my confidence would also build from there as well. It was only when I started to put myself in those uncomfortable situations that I was able to build that confidence and I was able to grow. Without the exposure to it, I never would have grown across so many different things. You need to try and take on more work and more responsibility than you think you're ready for. That doesn't mean going right to the extreme and jumping right in the deep end and taking on tasks that you know are completely out of reach or not within your ability. But you do need to take those next steps that are just at the right point in order to challenge you and are just outside your comfort zone. The people who get promoted and move forwards in their career aren't necessarily more capable. They just say yes to things before they're ready. They take on that responsibility before they have figured things out fully, before they know the specific details of how they're going to execute something. They say yes and then they figure out the details later. So make sure you say yes to opportunities and take further responsibility before you think you're ready, because it's going to get you so far, and the growth that is going to come from it will help really elevate your career. Next, ask more questions. Ask as many questions as you can and don't be afraid to look stupid. No one knows everything and no one expects you to know everything. So questions are a good thing. They show that you're engaged, they show that you want to learn, and they show that you know there is more to learn. It's much better to ask questions, get things clarified early on, and then do your work properly, as opposed to just going ahead, trying to do everything by yourself without asking questions, with the fear of looking stupid, ending up doing things wrong and then having to redo things later on. And if you are holding off from asking questions because of the fear of looking stupid, who defines what stupid is? Because more often than not, there will be other people with the same question as you. Or there will be people who were once in your position, who once did have the same questions as you. And a lot of the time, people actually don't care as much as you think they do. People aren't analysing every question you ask as much as you are. So actually you're only holding yourself back by not speaking up and by not asking those questions. I really advise you to ask as many questions as possible from as many people as possible. Try and learn as much as you can from everyone around you and those people with more experience than you, because that's who you're going to learn from. You do need a certain level of awareness when asking questions though, because if you really do think it's a stupid question and you can find the answer yourself, then please do that first, because you don't want to waste people's time. So investigate that yourself first, and if you really do need to ask it, figure out who is the best person to ask, because sometimes going to the people right at the top can be a bit intimidating or a waste of their time. I would advise asking the people who are directly above you. So they're the people who were in your position the most recently. So they're actually going to be able to relate to you a lot more than anyone else, because they're that one step above and they're the place that you're trying to get to. So seek out those people and try and pick their brains. If you want to get ahead in your company, you need to learn how decisions are made, specifically for your company and for the employees at this organization. So you need to look at your company values, you need to look at the objectives, the goals, the business outcomes that they want, and all of those things related to where you work. You also need to figure out who has influence over what, and who are the key decision makers, and what they specifically value. You need to play the game a little. So companies typically have business goals, they have a strategic plan, they have timelines, and they have everything mapped out. So you need to figure out what they are and how you can slot into that and how you can help them achieve all of those goals. Your company will also likely have some internal framework, some progression framework that they mark you against, and it's what's used for everyone's promotions across the company. So you need to seek this out and you need to study it. It might be pretty boring having a read through it all, but you really need to get to know it, because that is what you need to align yourself to in order to progress, in order to demonstrate everything on that, and in order to kind of match your skill set against it. Getting to know it helps you decide what to focus on and where to put your energy in order to progress. So go through it, self-evaluate, mark yourself against it, see what skills you're excelling at, see what you're missing, and decide on a route going forwards. Once you've done that and you know what your company is looking for, you need to track your progress. You need to keep a log of everything you've done that aligns to this framework and that you can use as evidence. So one of the best ways I've found to do this is by using something that's called a brag document. So this is essentially what it says. It's a document where you keep a record of everything you've achieved across the business, within your team, in order to improve processes or help something, some sort of process or some system at the company. Maybe it's to do with retaining customers, maybe it's to do with improved sales, whatever metric it could be. All of that evidence, you need to log it and basically have it to brag about yourself. The brag document is just basically a place where you can put it all and keep it all together in one place. And you can start by keeping it private. It's just a record for yourself to start with. And when you zoom out and see it all written down together, it can really help you see how much you have achieved, because a lot of the time when we're busy, when we're working, when we're in routine, we don't actually zoom out and see it all. So it's a nice way to look back on our progress and reflect on where we are. And when you look back at it and you see how much you've achieved, maybe there becomes a point where you decide it's worth sharing. So you want to share it with your manager or whoever it is above you who can have that influence, and you take it as evidence to say, this is why I should be promoted. This is what I've achieved, and these are the outcomes it's led to that align with your business goals. So you should promote me. And having this document helps fight your case for the promotion because you have that evidence to back it up. It makes it easy for other people to see your value. And also, having this list of evidence helps actually improve your own confidence because it helps you realize what you're capable of and what you've achieved. So even for that reason alone, I think it's 100% worth it. On the other hand, maybe you start creating this brag document, and when you look back at it, you realize that you haven't achieved what you wanted to achieve. You haven't been aligning your work to the business goals, and you're not where you want to be. In this case, a brag document has still been so helpful because, again, just having it written out has helped you see that clearly. So it can help you reassess and figure out what you're missing or how your ways of working need to change. So maybe this document makes it obvious what you need to be doing more of or what you need to be doing less of. Now, everyone wants to earn more money, and people often want the fastest way to get there. But you need to zoom out and think about the bigger picture. Note that it's not always about the salary immediately, because chasing the highest paid job is not always the smartest move. You instead need to think of the long-term goal rather than what feels best currently. Maybe there's another role or opportunity that pays you less salary-wise, but you gain so much more from in other aspects. So maybe it gives you a chance to learn new skills. Maybe it gives you a chance to be in a new exciting environment or be surrounded by the right people who are going to excel your career. Or maybe it gives you a chance to have more leadership or growth in a certain new area. They're the things you should be looking at and the bigger picture, rather than just the pay scale or the salary. Or maybe it's even a career sidestep that makes you more aligned to the path that you want to follow. Focusing on building high value skills first will always pay off in the long run. If you're in a job that's paying you a really great salary, but you're not learning anything new, you're not growing, you're not surrounded by the right people, or it's not aligned to what you actually want to be doing, then there's kind of no point. You're only going to get so far, and that salary will cap at a certain point. So learning those high value skills could actually, in the long run, really accelerate your growth and your earning potential. And obviously this is assuming that you're in a position to be able to take the lower salary without needing to rely on the higher salary option. But if you are in that position, I always advise to zoom out, look at the bigger picture, and look at the long-term view. And this ties into a wider point about thinking with the long term in mind. So you don't want to stay in your company so long that you feel like there's no room for you to progress, you've hit a ceiling, or you're not learning anything new. You don't want to overstay your welcome in a job. So if that's you and you feel like you can no longer progress, 100% move. You never want to be too comfortable, because that's where you become pretty stagnant in your career. But on the flip side, sometimes you actually need to stick things out for a bit longer than you might think in order to see that growth, or you need to push through those hard times if you know there's potential and growth at the other end of it. If you're not enjoying your job, you're not seeing any value or seeing any growth, then it's definitely, almost probably, the right decision to move on and search for something new. But if you're just finding it hard right now, and you know that if you push through all of the challenges, then it will be worth it, then it's 100% worth staying. You don't want to switch direction or search for an easier alternative every time something gets hard or feels difficult. You need that certain level of uncomfortableness in order to grow. So you need to learn to recognize the difference between it's hard because this isn't what I want and it's hard because I'm not growing, versus it's hard because I feel uncomfortable, it's putting me outside of my comfort zone, but it will lead to growth further down the line. Something else that makes a much bigger difference than what people realize is learning to manage your energy. And you do this by focusing on those small, boring things that help you build a good routine and build strong habits. Most productivity advice is about squeezing more into your day, having better to-do lists, doing more of everything, and optimizing everything. I know that sometimes I'm also guilty of that. I know that my to-do lists are sometimes so much longer than what is actually realistic for the day. But something I am good at is prioritizing sleep. Sleep is so important, and I will always talk about the benefits of sleep and the benefits of rest. Alongside that, I will always talk about also the benefits of having a good solid routine. So going to bed at roughly the same time every night, maybe eating at roughly the same time every day. Having those routines and those structures in place so that you know what's coming up and you know how your day is going to be in advance. This helps reduce any of that decision fatigue that you might get. It removes any of that uncertainty, and it makes sure that you actually stick to it if you have that solid plan in place. In some ways it's boring, but I actually get so excited by planning out my routine, blocking out things in my calendar, making space for those non-negotiables, and having that structure in place. If your days have that structure, it means there's less room for decision making. It means there's less room for things going wrong or you not sticking to the plan. And it takes a lot of mental load off of you. I found that your mind is actually clearer because you have a lot more space to be able to think about the important things or the more time-consuming decisions, rather than having to think about what time am I going to wake up, what am I going to eat for breakfast, or what am I going to do for my workout. You have those things already planned in advance and they're part of your routine. This leaves a lot more room for progressing in other areas. Now, something else to talk about is we need to stop seeking external validation. So this is something that is harder to implement and it's harder to talk about because it's not something we can objectively see, and it's not something that you can really measure the progress of, or it doesn't look really impressive from the outside. It's more of an internal feeling and an internal mindset that you need to learn to change. At some point in your career, you need to stop searching for external validation from other people. You need to stop searching for people telling you you're doing a good job, or people saying well done to every piece of work you do, because that might not always happen. You could end up working with a manager or someone above you who may not necessarily be rude, but they just naturally don't give you the recognition, or they don't appreciate your hard work. And you can't rely on that because of cases like that. What happens if you start working for someone who is exactly like that, who doesn't give you any of that recognition? You don't want your self-worth or your self-value to be placed on what they say about your work. Because if it is, this means that your confidence could be affected even if there's no change in the value you provide or your ability to do your work. So you need to learn how to validate yourself first before looking to others. So maybe again, linking back to that brag document, keeping that record so you know your achievements and you know the value that you can provide. My next point is about being easy to work with. So this is one that I think is pretty underrated and can often be overlooked. I think it can also be misunderstood because on hearing that, it can be easy to assume that you need to get on with everyone, you need to agree with everyone, and you need to just say yes to everything everyone asks of you. But actually, that's not what makes you easy to work with. That can often make you harder to work with. People don't want someone who's a yes person or a people pleaser. They want to work with people who are able to have discussions and able to bring their own opinions, who are able to challenge thoughts and bring new ideas. Being a joy to work with will get you far because people will want you on their team and they will want to be around you. This increases your demand, essentially also probably increasing your chances of earning more. And that brings me on to my last point. Relationships are everything. Your professional working relationships will get you so far. At the end of the day, we're all people, we're all humans, and people want to work with people they like. They want to enjoy their time at work because we spend a lot of our time, a third of our time pretty much, at work. They want to give the opportunities to people they like. They want to help you grow if they like you. And they're willing to invest more time and energy into you if they have that personal connection as well. And that doesn't mean that skills don't matter at all, because they 100% do. You need the skills, or you at least need the drive and the ability in order to learn the skills. But the skills alone rarely carry you as far as you think they will, because sometimes who you know is just as important, if not more important, than what you know. You need the people around you to be supporting you and helping you get to where you want to get to. Because when those people trust you and they like you, they're more likely to give you the opportunities that you need or want. They're more likely to invest more time into you. They're more likely to advocate for you, even if you're not in the room. None of the things I've talked about in this video are super complicated, but that's exactly why they work. They're simple, boring habits that will get you a lot further than you think when you consistently put in the effort. Over time, these habits will put you in a completely different position to where you are now. So try them out and let me know how you get on. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll leave my links in the description box below. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to share it with someone else you think it might help as well. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully see you next time.